All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy Clement. I have Wale with me. What's going on, Wale?
Not much, man. Slow day today for me.
Bruh, it's been a slow week. Matter of fact, I mean, we only had like maybe a couple of move here and there, but overall, it has been like really slow, man. But the market kind of, you know, it kind of ended up flat today. I mean, the S&P kind of edged down about 1.85% today, to close at 5980. Basically flat on the day. The Dow Jones also closed down about 44.14 points down, which is negative 0.1%. The Nasdaq was also down. I mean, Nasdaq was a little bit up. Nasdaq I think was plus 0.1% today, and the Russell was up 0.5% today. But I mean, we didn't really see a lot. The Federal Reserve kind of came in and talked about the FOMC as expected. No cut. I was surprised they said that two cuts later this year. I mean, I want to kind of get your feedback on that because we've been saying maybe zero, maybe one, maybe zero. So I want to get your feedback on that and see exactly what happened. So I
Yeah,
hand
I
it
was.
I hand it
Go
off to
ahead.
you, man. I was gonna
Oh,
say
so
I'll hand it off for you so you can kind of talk about what the FOMC said and what Jerome Powell kind of talked about.
yeah, so I was kind of surprised that they raised their inflation expectations. They lowered their growth expectations, and
Mm-hmm.
they said that they still look at having two cuts.
Right.
That to me seems counterproductive. But I also heard him say that the Fed has to be forward looking. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think what it comes down to again is what's going to be the trigger to get the cut? Is it going to be unemployment going up too much, or is it going to be inflation coming down? And from what
Yep.
it sounds like to me, it looks like they're not expecting inflation to come down. So inflation is not going to
Mhm.
be the trigger for a cut. So
No.
I'm assuming that they're expecting to cut when inflation gets to a certain number. I mean, not inflation, when unemployment gets to a certain number. That to
I'm,
me is they're going to be their trigger. Like maybe it's 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, then they said, okay, we're going to need to cut. So I
yeah.
think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an intervention cut, not a things look good, let's cut, because they're talking about tariffs going to affect prices. They said
Mm-hmm.
someone's going to pay for it. We
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
they said
I
either
saw him mention that. Yeah.
yeah, he said the consumer's going to pay for it or the producer's going to pay for it. Someone's going to pay for it. And they're expecting to see it at some point. So didn't really say much. And you can kind of tell the market didn't know what to do. I mean, the market was kind of like stuck in place.
You're like, what's going on?
So to me, the way I see it is until the inflation numbers scare people or the unemployment scares people, markets will continue to move higher. That's just me.
Yeah. But I mean, unemployment is like what, 4.5% right now. So, I
4.2,
mean,
4.2,
it's 4.2. Okay. So
4.2, 4.2.
what exactly are they like? I guess you say maybe 4.5, 4.7, whatever, but it's like, what would be that number? What would be that trigger for them to be like, okay, shoot, we need to cut it? Like, you know what I mean? Because like you're right, like based on what they're saying, nothing's really gonna trigger them to kind of like cut rates
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, not on the inflation front. No, if you're expecting inflation to be higher and you're expecting growth to be lower, then to me, that's not something that would trigger a rate cut.
Right.
So it has to be employment. That to me has to, I mean, that's the only other default in my opinion, because those are their two mandates. So
Yep.
we'll
Yep.
see. Yeah, I'm still skeptical to a certain point, but at the same time, I mean, you also have to worry about, the Iran and the Israel issue. That to me has caused more of the volatility in the market over the last couple of days than anything. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing that I noticed from Powell too, he was a little bit more defensive, right? Especially when he said someone has to pay for it, like all this
yes,
tariff and all that. I feel like he's maybe Trump is getting under his skin a little bit.
Trump called him stupid.
I mean, he's just starting to be personal now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's no longer about the job. It's like
nah,
the man is attacking you as a person now. So it's like it's hard to kind of still be dovish and still be like your normal self when when stuff like that is happening. But he was very defensive, saying like someone has to pay for this tariff. Who's going to pay for it? Ultimately, is going to be consumer. So I feel like he was very straightforward today, but
yep,
that still didn't move the market as much because he didn't really say a lot.
yeah. Didn't say nothing really changed from the summary of economic
Right.
projections in March. Nothing really changed. It stayed the same. I was thinking that if something did change, then that would ruffle some feathers. But like I said, I was actually surprised to see 2 rate cuts still priced in for 2025.
Right, right, right.
So
How about bonds, man? Did you notice any movement in bonds at all as he was talking?
yeah, so bond yields actually, if I'm looking at TLT, bond yields actually moved up. They kind of moved down towards close. They were off the lows, but they did move up a little bit. And then I saw a very large order for TLT puts
Mm-hmm.
that expire Friday. Markets close tomorrow for Juneteenth, but it was executed at the mid price. So I don't know if these were sales or if these were buys, but it
Yeah, yeah,
was like $7 million with 2 days to expiration. So that somebody knows something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But as a reminder, also tomorrow the market is closed for Juneteenth, so do not
Mhm.
log in and wonder why the charts is not moving. And be texting everybody talking about why is this my chart is not working and all this stuff. So
Exactly. Calling thinkers, calling Schwab, talking about why is my thinkorswim not working?
if they
Now
if
I
they're even open.
now I think the futures market might be open during their regular hours. I could be wrong, not sure, but well, I think if you're a futures trader, you might be able to still trade tomorrow.
Yep, yep. If you're a future trader, man, I don't know how you guys making money in this weather, but I'm pretty sure it's been a little
It's
hard to
choppy.
answer.
It's
Yeah,
choppy. Yeah,
yeah,
very choppy.
yeah. But let's move on, man. One of the interesting news that I have seen that everybody's circulating around is Meta is trying to snatch up some of the OpenAI employees. I mean, they just don't care. They're like, come over here to the West Coast. So basically, Sam Altman said that Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI. OpenAI. He basically said that on a podcast, it's called Uncap, that Meta has offered signing bonuses as high as $100 million. I'll work for OpenAI. You hear me? Come hire me. I will take that.
I will learn the code tomorrow.
Listen, but he said despite this like staggering offers, none of their best employees took the offer, which is crazy.
But you know why though?
Hmm.
Most of their best employees probably have early equity. So they're gonna
Yes.
make their money when they IPO. So
So
you don't want to forfeit all that equity
yep.
before an IPO.
Because
No,
you
no,
probably make a
no.
lot more. You probably make a lot more.
Because if when OpenAI goes public, that's probably going to be one of the biggest IPOs we've seen in a long time.
Yep.
If they plan to go public.
Yep.
So they probably playing the waiting game. So that's a crazy offer though. And I keep saying this, man, the AI, man, this whole AI story, it's going to be an arms race. It's an
Mm-hmm.
arms race at this point. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and Zuckerberg, that's kind of his MO. It's like kind of poaching ideas from other businesses and poaching people from other places. That's kind of like
Yep.
his nature. So
Yep.
it
Yep.
doesn't come to me as a surprise at all.
And if you guys don't know the backstory of how Meta, which if you were just born yesterday, Meta was actually called Facebook back in the day, right?
Yep.
Just to let you know. I mean, the way how Mark Zuckerberg actually was able to create Facebook and be able to kind of monetize and all these different things, it came on the backbone of these twins called what's it called? The Wilkinson twin?
Wickenoff twins or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he pretty much the word on the street is he stole the idea basically and created this whole Facebook thing and took it for himself. He was able to monetize and get investors and stuff and basically isolated the twins from it. But the twins kind of they made up okay, right? They got paid like $65 million, I think, from a lawsuit settlement or whatever.
Hmm.
And on top of that, I think they took like $11 million and put it into Bitcoin. I think they bought like
Hmm.
100,000, whatever. They're sitting at like $6 billion right now, based on that investment from like 2013, 2012, whatever. So they're doing okay. But
Yeah.
if you haven't watched that movie, what is it called, the social media, I forgot what it's called, but the social network or something like that. It's a
Yeah.
movie you
Yeah.
guys gotta watch. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some truths and some lies into it, but it's like it kind of gives you like the gist of what happened basically with this thing. And if you guys don't remember
Yeah.
back in the day, when Facebook first came out, it was only for college students. I don't know if
Yep.
you guys remember that. Like that's how they became so big so fast. But
Yeah.
overall, OpenAI, I mean, they're sitting on a valuation of about $300 billion. I mean, that is a staggering amount of money. You know what I mean? And that's without even like, IPOing. I wonder where they're going to be when they IPO. I don't know.
I know. And I think they just hit 100 million in reoccurring revenue.
Yep. Yep.
So if they double that over the next 2 or 3 years,
They'll be a trillion
that,
dollar company in no time.
they gonna be a big company. So
Yeah.
if you are a early investor, an early employee, and you have equity, maybe waiting is your best option.
Listen, I'll wait 10 years if I need to. Like,
Yeah. So if you're well compensated and you're just waiting for that liquidity event, I would wait it out.
Yep. Well, speaking of Sam Altman, also, he actually was talking about, is this someone, or is it Zuckerberg? I think Zuckerberg was talking about Apple and their lack of innovation. I know we talked about this so many times. Where there he was basically saying like Apple kind of relying on the iPhone from back in the day when it was created back in the day. So there have not been any innovation after Steve Jobs died. There
Hmm.
haven't been any new innovation that came up and all this stuff. And I remember Kanye West. I mean, now I think his Kanye says some crazy stuff, but I think he's right. He's like Steve Jobs was selfish. He took a lot of those ideas with him. He didn't write it down. So he might have a lot of ideas, but he never really shared with anybody at Apple. Maybe he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Based on what's happening, I don't think he did because ain't nobody coming up with anything right now. So
Yeah. They've lost their innovation. I think they are too focused on keeping people sort of pigeonholed in their ecosystem and just trying to
mhm.
monetize what they already have. And like I said, if I'm looking to buy a growth stock and hold it for the next 5 years, 10 years, Apple is at the way bottom of the list.
Man, I tell you, man. So one thing, another thing we talked a little bit about is gold. Gold has been hitting all-time highs back to back to back. Now, can you kind of like explain to the people like what is the impact whenever gold goes up? I know we talked a little bit about this, but I feel like we need to reiterate it again. Like when gold is moving up, gold, silver, and all these commodities are moving up, something is happening in the market where the investors are actually running into more of a like a, I guess, a stable
Yes, like a
long term.
hedge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So gold and um like minerals, what do I call them? Like silver and copper and all that. They're really good for inflation. So
yeah,
the Fed saying that they're expecting inflation to move higher, people are rushing over to gold as a place to park their money so that they can kind of wait out the storm. So
yeah,
gold is actually not a bad inflation hedge. To me, how should I put it? If I want to be in a long-term investment, I'd rather be in the stock market than like ride gold. But if there are moments where the stock market's not doing well and inflation is moving higher, hard assets like gold tend to do a little bit better. People are um, driving the price up. I know GLD was down today slightly,
yeah.
but it did hit an all-time high not too long ago of what, 317ish, 317.60. So yeah, I would not be surprised if in the next, by fall, we start even seeing higher gold in the next coming months. So but the inflation data has to start showing up soon. That's the thing that will drive that price up.
Yep, yep, yep. Or I mean, man, I agree with Powell though. Like now we're gonna start seeing more of the tariff effects on inflation and all that stuff. So um I think the next couple of months, the next quarter is probably gonna be very critical, right? Because we're gonna have a solid quarter of inflation on the tariff gonna go in effect for certain countries and stuff. So I think that's gonna be very, very important
Hmm.
coming up. So we'll see how those go, how those gonna actually like affect the market and all that. All right, so let's move on.
Also,
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead. You say you also seen what?
Yeah, I was also, and I don't know why it was down, but I saw that Walmart was actually down for 10 straight days. And I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if that's because of them saying that they were going to have to start raising prices and maybe that their sales or their margins were going to would shrink a little bit because they said Walmart hadn't been down 10 straight days in a long time. So to see that, I was actually a little bit surprised and I wonder if that was the reason why they were down 10 days.
So Walmart is actually
So,
going through the same thing Target has been through. What I mean by that is there are some people actually boycotting Walmart today based on what that they're
oh
saying that they're
wow.
gonna pass down. Yep. I've read that and they're like they really are. a movement out there to not shop at Walmart anymore. So I won't be surprised at next earning that they're
Oh,
going to be down big. So keep an eye on that one.
yeah, because Walmart is a low margin business, but lots of volume.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's their business. So we shall see. Interesting.
Yep. So let's talk about this stablecoin bill that's called the Genius Act. I mean, if you
I'm
guys
gonna
don't
be
know what the
100%.
Genius, if you guys
Yeah, I'm
don't know
gonna
what the
defer to
Genius
you,
Act
my
is,
friend.
so the Genius Act does. So the Senate basically passed a bipartisan bill for the stable coin. So basically, they established a federal regulatory framework for US dollar pegged stable coin. So issuer must approve entities like banks, subsidiaries, or state regulated issuers maintain one-to-one reserves, so cash, treasuries, and liquid assets, provide monthly disclosure and annual audits for large issues over $50 billion. So, one, to ensure consumer protection, hold the priority in bankruptcy, anti-money laundering rules. So it's like we call this KYC, right? So if you think about the
Yep.
stable coins, they didn't really have KYC when it comes to like companies actually dealing with stable coins. And now they're basically saying, hey, if you really want to deal in these stable coins, you have to go kind of observe the same regulatory as like companies like Visa, MasterCard, and all the stuff. You have to go through all that stuff. So basically, that's what basically this Genius Act basically stables.
Yeah, and that act sent MasterCard and Visa down pretty big today. I think MasterCard was down
Yep.
5.39%. And if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, Visa was down 4.88%. And let me look at American Express. American Express was not down actually. So, um, yeah, I mean, when I was looking at it, I don't know. When I saw that it wasn't FDIC insured, I'm like, why would I put money in a stable coin when I can get FDIC insurance from a bank?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of looked at the pros and cons about like moving money internationally 24/7. It's not a kind of get that thing, but
Yep.
I don't know. I am not a expert in this department. I just know enough to be
Yeah.
dangerous.
I think with stable coins, think about it as so today if you want to move hard cash from your bank,
Yeah.
like especially for a large amount, you got to do wire transfer, right? Wire transfer
Yep.
normally takes a little bit, a couple of loops. It might take a whole day, it might take a few days, depending on what amount you're going to. With
Gotcha.
stable coins or crypto, it's literally within minutes. So you can transfer
Mm,
thousands and thousands of dollars within minutes to another person in a whole different country. So that
gotcha.
expedites things like real estate transaction, expedite things like if you want to make a big purchase, right? You don't have to wait for too long for money to be transferred back and forth.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I think
Gotcha.
that's why it's like you kind of see like this is a direct competitor to like Visa, MasterCard, and most banks because it's like you don't have to go through all these regulation hoops in order to move
Gotcha.
money,
So
right?
so so the I'm thinking of stable coins like an asset class like crypto, but it's not. It's basically more so to move money.
Yep, yep.
Gotcha.
Well,
Okay, that
even
makes sense.
even in the crypto world, you're still able to move money around. So
That's true. Yes.
I can send somebody like let's say 100 Ethereums that's worth like let's say $20,000 in a matter of seconds. Versus if I need to send somebody $20,000 using a regular bank, you can't do that through Zelle today. That's a lot of money. I think Zelle has a cap on there. You can't do it through cash out.
Hmm.
You have to do it through wire transfer. And wire transfer goes to
Hmm.
a couple of regulations to verify the funds and all these different things. So
Hmm.
it can take anywhere
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
24 hours to 72 hours before the other person on the other side get money. Now, with crypto,
Gotcha.
you log into your wallet. If I need to send somebody $100,000, within seconds, they're going to get the $100,000. So it makes transaction and movement of money a lot easier because of the ledgers they keep. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
so I think that's why you kind of see like Visa, MasterCard, they're kind of like a little bit because it's now introducing a whole new competitor that will probably take your business away
Gotcha.
from. Because can you imagine now people taking their money instead of having it in like their Visa card or let's say you go to Chase or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like now you move it into like a stable coin where you can like have it in a USDC or something like that. You can move it easily around the world and nobody will question you and it'll take you no time to be able to do those transactions. And it's probably minimal
And,
fee for it too.
yeah, I was gonna say that because I know with businesses they pay fees for credit card and for debit
Yep.
transactions and things like that. So,
Yep.
interesting.
So I think that's the ease of use. That's what's gonna probably like cause all these issues with all these different other companies and stuff.
Gotcha, gotcha. That
Yeah,
makes sense, man. Appreciate you enlightening me on that topic.
I got you, man. So let's talk about this solar stocks, man. We saw a bunch of the solar stocks got smacked. So let's
I
talk a
mean,
little bit
so,
about that. Like what happened, why did drop and all of that stuff.
yeah, so politicians, man, politics, solar stocks getting caught in the politics. Politicians talking about taking away those credits.
Credits.
Um, and once they had made that, they looked at that bill took away a lot of credits. A lot of them are about to expire.
Yep.
So if it gets passed, man, Sunrun was down 4 yesterday.
Yep.
Phase Energy was down big. I mean,
Yep.
those names got hammered. And if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, I'm looking at Sunrun. Sunrun was $100 stock back in 2021. It is now a $6 stock.
Yep. Yep. That's crazy,
That's
right?
another reason why I tell you, if you're going to buy individual stocks, make sure you know what's going on with the business.
Yep. Yep.
Because, you know, you always hear that blanket statement that the stock market always goes up, stock always goes up. And then people want to start drifting into buying the individual names,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're not really tapped into what's going on with the business. So I'm about to look up some Sunrun stuff real quick just to
Yep.
see what was going on with them. But man, they're getting hammered. And I did see one of the biggest winners in that bill that they're trying to pass with the clean energy bill is nuclear.
Nuclear. I was
Nu-
literally gonna say that.
nuclear.
I was like, I won't be surprised if they
Nuclear.
start offering some type of credit incentive for nuclear.
Yep.
I don't know what's
Yep.
gonna happen,
Yep.
but I won't be surprised if they start offering that. I think that's
That
why
is
they're
part of
phasing.
the bill. That is part of
Yep.
the bill.
Yep. And I think
So,
that's why probably they're phasing this credit for like solar and wind energy and all this stuff. I mean,
mhm.
you look at it, Sunrun was down 40% in a single session. In phase was down almost 27%. Solar Edge was
Ooh,
down 35%. First Solar was down 19%. You know what I mean? So the problem with that is when you remove those incentives, right? Is if like let's say you are a residential person who wants to get like a solar um, um, panel installed at your house, typically the government will give you like an incentive, like they will give you like a discount. So they will subsidize part of your purchase. So now they're taking that away. That becomes really expensive for you as a residential person to try to get a solar,
correct.
right?
Yep.
And which means like you're probably gonna be like, I'm not paying $100,000 for it to install solar. I could just stick with electricity, pay my $100, $200, whatever it is a month, and I'm good with it, right? So now those companies are no longer have their customers, they no longer have incentive to have like people kind of
Correct.
install
Yeah.
solar panel and all that stuff. So that's why you see all these companies dropping because they rely heavily on those incentives to be able to get their product out there.
And this is why I say you should pay attention to the business. So you're going to buy individual stocks. I did a webinar on this. One of my favorite metrics to look at is free cash flow. So let's
Mm-hmm.
look at Sunrun's free cash flow going back to 2020. Negative 1.29 billion. The next year, negative 2.5 billion. The
Dang.
next year, negative 2.86 billion. The next year, $3.4 billion negative. So if you don't look at one metric in a business, like let's say you open up a balance sheet, if there's one metric you want to look at and pay attention to, free cash flow is very simple to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Free cash flow basically means how much money the company has to invest back into the business and to do other things. Free cash flow after all of their operations and everything. That's what free cash flow is. If you see
Mm-hmm.
consistently dropping free cash flow, especially if it's negative, that basically means the company is digging themselves into a hole. So if you look at Sunrun back in 2021, right, when they were $100 stock, and then the next year the free cash flow is still negative and down, it's a red flag. It's a red
Mm-hmm.
flag.
Mm-hmm.
So If you're an individual owner of stocks and you are not paying attention to the business side of the companies you're invested in, you will not you're gonna miss out on a lot of things that could be an eye opener to you.
Yeah.
Now, I will put this caveat out there. There are some companies that are early stage companies that are trying to grow, right? They may have negative free cash flow because they're still early stage or
Right.
they're pre-revenue companies.
Right.
Correct.
Right. They're reinvesting that back into the business. Yeah.
Correct. Because I want to say Oklo, if I'm not mistaken. Oklo is pre-revenue. They don't have any revenue. They don't have any sales. So if I look at their free cash flow, actually their free cash flow may not actually be that bad. Last I looked at it. Let me just take a look. But okay. So Oklo 1.1 million, then it dropped to 19K. So yeah, they are reinvesting heavily back into the business. Their free cash flow has consistently been negative. But one of the things that I did hear on their earnings call when I was on there is that they're still on target to go live in 2027 and have their first reactor built, and they have enough cash on hand to get to that timeline. That's very
Mm-hmm.
important. So sometimes if you look at the company in their early stage, right? Because I think Aqua hasn't even been public for a year yet.
Mm-hmm.
You look at them early stage, if they have negative free cash flow, get on the earnings call and look at the reason why that's happening, and that will give you an explanation. So Sunrun is not an early stage company, so I don't know why they're having trouble.
That's
So
crazy,
I will
man.
put that caveat out there if you're investing in early, like small cap companies or micro cap companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's also good to look at those finance, man. It kind of gives you an idea of what the company's doing over the years. So it's like
correct.
it's
Exactly.
really, really, really good. Especially going back to your point, if you are not trying to invest in an ETF and not trying to invest in like a
Mutual
mutual
fund or something
fund or
like
something like
yeah,
that, yeah, make sure you analyze the business. Not only just look at the spreadsheet, because sometimes there's some good companies, kind of like what you mentioned, is they might be losing money, but they're in a good company, right?
or in a
They're a
good
good company
industry.
on a good industry. So they might be losing money in the short term. So you might be early for it, but you really have to do your due diligence. Otherwise, you might pick a company that's like on the way down and you think they're making good money and all this stuff. So it's like you really have to pay attention to those things.
Yeah. So very, very words of wisdom if you're an individual investor in companies. And that's another reason why I kind of tell people, if you don't have substantial assets to invest,
Mm-hmm.
don't chop your portfolio into so many different pieces. Like if you have like 10 grand, to me, you shouldn't own like 15 stocks.
Yeah.
You're probably going to cut that down to maybe like five.
Well, that's five is even a lot.
Yeah, five is even a lot. So I see some people, right? They have, and I'm not saying 10 grand is a little bit of money, but 10 grand is not enough money to me to invest in 30 different companies.
Yep.
You're either better off cutting that down to five or buying like a sector ETF or a overall market ETF. Then as that pie starts to grow, then you start to diversify a little bit. That's how I would do it, to each their own. But
Yep.
because
Yep.
you imagine having to listen to 30 different earnings calls or looking at 30 different spreadsheets for just 10 grand.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
That's a lot.
work. That's a lot of
Yep.
work.
Yep. 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 But
So
overall, man, this week market, I mean, it's been very interesting. We started out the week really well. I think Monday was probably one of the best days, but after that, we just kind of lost momentum and everything kind of just like slowed down from there. I was expecting either a good move to the upside or downside today. None of this happened. So here we are, man. It's kind of interesting to see what's gonna happen. I don't see any big catalysts going into next week. We have PMI coming up, which is the manufacturing and services. Um, New residential sales on Wednesday next week. GDP third estimate for Q1 that's coming in June 26th. And then we have PCE, which is the core inflation, personal income and PCE deflator on June 27th. But other than that, I don't see any like big catalysts at all coming up. Maybe till earnings next month when we move to first quarter. But I don't see any like big catalysts coming next day. The
and
only
I'm
catalyst
look
I see is a war, probably. That's
yeah.
probably the thing.
There you go. And
Yeah,
I'm looking at SPY, the last 9 trading days. We've basically just traded between 605 and 596.
we didn't go anywhere.
Didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Haven't
that's
really gone anywhere.
that's true in a lot of stocks. The one thing I was watching also is Tesla. Tesla hasn't really gone anywhere. We're stuck in this range between 309 and 335. Like we just been stuck there. We haven't gone anywhere. In the past couple of days, we've basically stuck between like 312, 314 area. We'll probably yeah, we go like to 327, 330, and we get smacked, you know? So
I
haven't
will
really
say
gone
this
anywhere.
though, one stock that did make a pretty good move yesterday and broke above a key level was AMD. So AMD was up like almost 10% yesterday,
Yes.
or
What's
two
up
day,
with
or two,
AMD?
or is it Monday? And it broke above the 200-day EMA. So we'll see if it can sustain that level. But they had some, I guess, some promising outlooks with some of their AI chips.
Okay.
And that stock broke above a key level because it hasn't been above the 200 EMA in a
In
while.
a long time.
EMA, actually, it broke above the 200 EMA and SMA.
Hmm.
So yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. Um, and then I saw that new IPO company Circle was up 33% today.
Ooh, Circle is up. And
Yeah,
again, that goes back to the whole stable coin thing. Because I think Circle is one of the companies that offers stable coin to be able to be bought. So they were up. I mean, they IPO at what, 30? When did they IPO? How much was that?
IPO'd at 31, and I think when they first started trading on the open market, it was at 64.
Look at that.
Now they got to 200.
Yeah.
From 64 to 200 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trading days.
I mean, they were up 33% today alone.
That's crazy. Somebody in the group hit over 1,000% on that.
Hey,
Said,
that's a good play.
yeah,
That's a clean play. This whole day today, if you go to the hourly charge or even the 30 minutes charge,
yeah.
that is not
It,
a
it
bad play at all.
it might do a core weave.
Go parabolic, whatever they call
Parabolic, yeah. Core weave
it.
is core weave has still been core weave had a parabolic move a couple days ago. Was it yesterday? Might have been yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah, it was up
It was,
like
it was it
eight,
was
nine, ten
yesterday.
percent.
It was yesterday. It pulled back a little bit today, but it was yesterday.
Yeah, but
Ooh,
just
it broke through the high yesterday. God.
yeah.
Shoot.
Core weave was a $30 stock in April. It is now at $176,
Can,
$170.
can you look at their numbers real quick? Can you pull up their like their numbers? I don't know if they reported anything for
So
because they
so
just IPO'd. Oh, they IPO'd last year, so they might have some
no,
good
this
numbers.
year, this year.
Oh shoot, yeah, March this year.
Yeah. They IPO'd this year.
So they still don't have probably a good quarter under there anyway.
Yeah, let me see their financials. So they've only got financials going back to 2022 that's posted. But I will say that a couple things that are actually pretty good that you can take a look at. They went from 15.83 million in sales in 2022 to 1.92 billion in 2024.
What? That's a crazy jump.
So that sales growth is ridiculous. So from 15 billion in 2022, then 2023 they went to 228 million, then from 228 million to 1.9 billion.
That's nuts.
Now, the issue that I had with them, that the reason why I did not want to invest in them was because of their debt. And if I look at their balance sheet, I'm still hurt. I'm still mad, but this was my standpoint. I looked at their long-term debt. Let me look at this is assets. Okay, let's move down to liabilities. Yeah, so their liabilities went from 5.11 billion to 16.52 billion. That was a pretty big jump in total liabilities to me. So I was just
Oh,
kind of like, let me just hold off. So I wanted them to get to $30 a share because I think they IPO'd at 45. They got to 33, and then from 33, they never looked back. So
that's crazy.
my mistake. And if I look at their free cash flow, yeah, so this is another company where they're investing heavily back into the business because free cash flow, 71.49 million negative. 1.1 billion negative and then went to 5.95 billion negative. I
So
will
they're
say
just putting
this
everything
though.
back.
Yeah, everything's going back into the business. I will say this though. When that stock lockup period expires, I think they're going to see a massive drop.
They're gonna sell. They're gonna
Yeah,
sell.
I think
People,
some people are going to sell. So I
yep.
might be looking for a short position before that lockup expires because I think that lockup will
What?
expire. I want to say it's coming in September, August or September. I got to look it up. I just asked ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, people are gonna cash out. A lot of those
Yeah,
investors are gonna
I
cash
think
out.
people are going to cash out. People are going, and I'm not saying that the stock is going to drop like 50%, but I don't see it being a $170 stock. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it drops to 100.
Yep, yep.
So
Yeah, so they're restriction from selling their shares until September 24th, 2025.
there
So
you go. That's when I'm going to have my puts in order.
I might start building some position now.
The thing
Another,
about though, the puts are expensive.
yeah,
They're
that just,
expensive. They're expensive.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Another stock that I kind of mentioned is LEU, the Centrus Energy. Go look at that chart, y'all. This thing is up 95% this month, 23% this week. Year to date is up 169%. The one thing I don't like about them, the spread on their options is
yes,
it's not
yes,
pretty. It is
yeah,
not pretty. So what that means is what the spread is, you probably end up buying at the ask price, which is a little higher than the bid price. And when you're selling it, you're gonna sell it at the bid price. And you want to make sure the bid price is higher than what you paid for. You know what I mean?
correct.
So
Yep. And
ah
until those spreads tighten and there's more liquidity, you might
yeah.
it may or you get a big move. Then
Yeah,
yeah,
you need a big move so you can kind of cash.
yeah, man, yeah, that stock has been moving.
And I'm keeping an eye on those spread to see exactly where we are, but we have broken through some crazy. I won't be surprised if we close this year like 300 plus when it comes to this stock. Like I would not be surprised. But the way it's moving now, it looks like a lot of people are buying it.
Yeah,
I mean, this thing was just back to $1 back in 2018, for God's sake. Yeah, in 2018 it was back to like $1. 2017.
yeah.
Ah,
I
dang.
think solar's gonna have one hell of a run coming up. Not solar,
Solar. I was gonna say
nuclear,
yeah, nuclear. Yeah.
nuclear. I think nuclear is gonna have because like I said, the biggest hurdle was legislation, and
Yep. Yep.
legislation
Yep.
seems to be on board. So
Yep. Yep. So keep an eye on CCJ, Aklo. What's the other one we talked about? LEUs. One of them, if you can handle those spreads and those
SM,
options,
SMR.
SMR.
I think
So
another one is NEE,
NEE.
NNE,
Yep, that's another one.
NNE.
Or NU. Is it new scalar?
New
Or
scalar.
is this new scalar, right? NU.
NU. I'm not familiar with NU.
Oh,
Oh,
did I lose you, Wale? I think I
did you
lost
lose me?
Wale. But nuclear is definitely having a heck of a run these days. So keep
Uh, the heck happened? Uh-oh. No. Oh, was that did I go dark?
yeah, it looks like we both gonna win down.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
No, it's all good. But again, like new scale, I think that's another one too. We talked about is it new scalar NU or
Yeah, let me go to my watch list real quick. I need to go to my nuclear watch list. NEE, CCJ, SMR, Oklo.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, was it LIU or LEU?
LEU. Yep.
LEU.
So keep an eye on those, man. I think for the next 5 years, man. I mean, we keep reiterating Aklo again. Again, Aklo literally we started talking about it last year at $5, maybe even less than $5, and look at it right now. So I think we are in it for the long haul. If I was you guys, as long as the legislator and everything is kind of like matching and kind of like going through, which we are seeing, big tech companies are
Yeah.
investing in nuclear and all this stuff. So we are seeing like a lot of those companies are moving toward that. So it's like in the next 5, 10 years, I think that's a really, really good sector to keep an eye on, you
Yep.
know. So that's just my two takes on it. But
Gotcha.
anyways, man, moving to next week. Any advice? Again, we mentioned there's not a lot of catalysts coming in next week. We have got to keep an eye on the war and see exactly where the U.S. is going to get involved or not. I mean, that's kind of like a sore. I feel like we moved from the tariffs to war, which is crazy.
Yeah. Whether or not the US gets involved or not, that could have an adverse effect on the market because we saw what happened with the VIX yesterday. That spike,
Hmm.
that VIX spike yesterday was crazy going into close.
Yep.
Obviously, we kind of subsided today, but and the thing with that is that you can't plan for it. You just don't know you
Mm-mm.
don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
You don't know what's going to happen. So, um, may not be a bad idea to hedge if you're swinging stuff overnight and things like that. But yeah, there is no playbook for geopolitical conflict when it comes to trading or investing. There's none. But what
Yep.
I will say though, from an investing standpoint, is that even if the U.S. does get involved and there's pullbacks, I'll be looking to buy. I'll be looking to buy. So
Yep.
depending on what goes down and by how much, I'll be looking to buy.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep. And I think I keep
so
saying that, man. This dip is not going to be dipping for a long time. We're going to see the
mhm.
same exact movement that happened a few weeks ago, a few months ago.
Yep.
We saw a dip and everything gets bought up. So another opportunity presenting itself again. So
Yeah.
we
Unless
got
it turns into like a world war, then that's a completely different story.
that's a whole different story. We start dropping nuclear bombs and stuff. Yeah.
Another
But still,
thing too, out. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if you drop a nuclear bomb, that's still gonna give you an opportunity for you also.
I mean, it's not a good thing, but
Right.
yeah, it's not a good thing. The only thing I will also take a look at and watch is oil, because if some
Yep.
of those oil routes get blocked off and supply goes down, price is going to go up. So
It's
that's
gonna
another
go
thing
up.
and
Yep.
I think Jerome talked about that today as well, saying that would be something they'd have to wait and look into to see if there's any
Absolutely.
reaction in the oil market that adds to their inflation issues. So just got to be
Absolutely.
patient. Got to be
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, man, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but we
Nah, no
are
questions
close
in the chat
tomorrow.
bot. Yeah, market's
We
close tomorrow.
we are close tomorrow, so don't log in tomorrow. You take a time off, breathe, look at the chart maybe late at night, and see if you can find something. But overall, we are still keeping an eye on the news and see exactly what's going to happen with the war and all that good stuff. So we'll see what happened with that and how the market will be affected. So other than that, man, I think it's a wrap for us. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add. If not, we're
Nope.
good to go. All right,
All right,
y'all.
everyone. Have a
We'll
good
talk
night.
to you guys on Friday.
Take care.
All right.